Welcome back. And it's back. So, my plan is that once I'm done this power rankings, the Central, West, East, and North will all disappear. We go back to the normal divisions. And I'll have a power rankings board that is similar to the one I had last season. Interestingly enough, so I had the games of the week thing. I never ended up using that. Current playoff matchups. I haven't touched these since the last time I touched them. Carolina was first versus fourth place Dallas at the time. Of course, Dallas is now out. Florida against Tampa. That is what ended up. That is what ends up happening. First place was Vegas against Minnesota. Minnesota's finishing ahead of fourth place. Colorado and St. Louis. So the four teams in the West are the same as they were 2 months ago. Okay, and the Central, only one team changed, and for Dallas it was points percentage that put them fourth. Actual points, I don't believe they were fourth at the time. First through fourth in the East, Philadelphia has fallen from second out of the playoffs. Boston, Pittsburgh, and Washington were all in the playoffs, and so of course the Islanders have joined them. And in the North, it's Toronto, Edmonton, Montreal, Winnipeg. So again, while we all debate about, oh, this team can catch this team, and oh, it's not over yet, 14 out of 16 teams that 2 months ago were in playoff spots, projected playoff spots, end up being playoff teams. So I know we all like a comeback story, and we all look at St. Louis 2 years ago. Hey, remember in January when they were the worst team in the league, which they weren't. But anyways, that's a whole other it's a whole other discussion I've had many times over on the channel. But yeah, it just shows that when you get off to a slow start, very often you can't make up that distance between yourselves and the playoffs, for whatever reason that is. All right, we're going to do this week's power rankings now. These are the last power rankings. So there won't be a power rankings next Saturday. That's it. Until about the draft, we won't be doing power rankings. And then after the draft, of course, people get upset because, like, how can you move teams up and move teams down after the draft? And how can you do that after, free agency is really where I move teams around, but it all ends up being guesswork. So we'll see how things go. Number 31, Vancouver. Vancouver, I know they beat Edmonton once this week, but they go 1-3 this week. They're 26-3, and they're, to me, they're 31st. It's been a brutal schedule. While there's some individual players that I'm impressed with, and I've still got my heroes on the team, I can't lie to myself and say they belong higher than that. Number 30, this team went 2-2 this week. They dropped one spot from last week. They're 26-6 now, and that's LA. For the Kings, the future is very bright. The future is very bright for the LA Kings. Kupari gets his first goal tonight. Byfield's look good. There are a lot of reasons to look at LA and say, yep, next year's going to be good. This year, it just hasn't been there. And so they take a drop just because somebody passed them, not because of their really bad week or anything. Number 29. These guys end up 2-2 this week, and a spirited 2-2 at that, but they're 15-34-7 overall. They dropped 2 spots from last week, and that's Buffalo. So Buffalo ends up finishing at the bottom of the East, which is where they were in the standings, but I do have high hopes that next year Buffalo and Vancouver won't be this low again. I really hope that doesn't happen again. So yeah, Buffalo just playing out the string, and hey, Hauser got into 3 games, and he was first star twice, so that's kind of a mind-blowing fact, isn't it? Number 28, and these guys move up because I think they played well this week. They end up 2-1-1 this week. They're 18-26-12 overall, and that's Columbus. I know they beat Detroit, but faint praise and all that. So I moved Columbus up to 28th overall, and of course John Tortorella will not be coach of the team next year. There's a lot of decisions to be made in Columbus. How much is Laine worth? Does Laine really want to stay there? He said that with Winnipeg too, right? So does he really want to stay? Does he maybe want to go? Do they maybe want to move him? A lot of questions with Columbus and a lot of other players too. Seth Jones's contract is up at the end of next season, so they're going to want to get that figured out this summer, you would think. A lot of question marks there. Number 27. These guys move up 1 spot this week. They went 1-2. 17-30-9 is their overall record. They move up 1 spot though, because I think Anaheim was competitive this week, and they did take it to overtime twice. They only lost 1 in regulation. Again, when you're in this range, these are teams that aren't making the playoffs, so it's all just relative. It's not really, because again, after tonight, Next time you see this, things will probably be different. I don't know how much different, but it'll probably be different. So yeah, 27th for Anaheim. It's been a long year. It's over. If you're a Ducks fan, you can just, pack up your stuff and wait till next year and just watch all the other teams tear each other apart in the playoffs. Number 26. These guys dropped 2 spots from last week. They went 2-2 this week. They're 19, 29, and 7, and that's the New Jersey Devils. So New Jersey ends up finishing the season at 26th. So 7th in the East. Again, we'll be back to the normal divisions next year. And I thought about changing these and putting the normal divisions on there, but it would throw people off. They'd be like, well, why are you doing those divisions? Those aren't the divisions this year. So I'm not going to do that. But when you next see this board, I will. Next time you see this board, I will rank the divisions as they're going to be next year, and we'll see where there might be some really tough divisions or some really kind of weakish looking divisions based on this year's records. So yeah, New Jersey, number 26. Number 25. Moving up 1 spot from last week. They went 1-1-2 this week, so they only lost 1 in regulation. 21, 27, and 7 is the record, and that's San Jose. For San Jose, we know they're in a rebuild. Apparently the Sharks don't know they're in a rebuild. Maybe don't tell them. I don't know. But yeah, for the Sharks, 25th. I thought about moving them up to 24th if they'd won tonight, but they didn't because they were against the team that's in 24th. These guys dropped 2 spots from last week, 24, 26, and 6. They went 2-2 this week, and that's Arizona. So they officially fell out of the playoff race this week. No real tension left in that division. St. Louis basically walks into that playoff spot, and we'll see whether or not they prove to be a team that can pull off an upset in that first round. But Arizona, it's another step back this year. I don't know what they do next year, but notice there are 4 teams from the West that are already on the board. So that's the question mark we're going to have, is the teams in the West that are top 3. How good are they going to be? And when we get to that team from the West representing them and going into that semifinal, how are they going to fare against a team from the East or a team from the Central? And interestingly enough, if they face a team from the West, or from the North, do people then look at the matchup between the Central and the East and say, this is the real Stanley Cup final, and whoever wins this series is going to destroy whoever comes out between the West and the North? So we'll see what happens. The seedings are going to be decided by points during the regular season, so 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. Either way, if you're an Arizona fan, it's not applicable. Number 23. These guys dropped 4 spots this week. They lost the only game they played this week. It's Calgary. Honestly, again, teams just passed them. And for the Flames, I don't know what to expect with them. I don't think they're going to run the table and end up catching up to Montreal. They're against a team that's playing better than them right now. Tomorrow, a team that's beaten them pretty regularly as far as I remember going into tomorrow. So, yeah, we'll see how things go for the Flames. They do have some games left against the Canucks. Those will be fun. I'm looking at those games against the Canucks, and I know people are like, why are they going to play these? You know what? I'm looking at them almost like exhibition games. They're audition games for next year. And honestly, I think it could be fun. You have these playoff series, and they're really ugly and really intense. And then you have this fun little game between Vancouver and Calgary as well that's kind of interspersed in there. Maybe I can make up a board for it and have fun with it. So, yeah, I'm okay with the fact that could overlap with the playoffs. Number 22. These guys go 1-1-1 this week. They drop 1 spot from last week, but the future's bright. They're 19, 27, and 10 to finish the season, and that's Detroit. This is the highest Detroit has finished on this board, I want to say, in 3 years. I really don't think Detroit's finished 21st or higher in any of the seasons I've done power rankings. I really don't. It's been an impressive run this year, and it's that work ethic. It's the fact that they work so damn hard, and as long as Steve Yzerman continues to pick up players with that work ethic, as long as he is looking for those character guys, Detroit's going to push towards playoffs potentially next year. That Atlantic division could be absolutely fantastic top to bottom. And bottom meaning Buffalo's got to get it together because that division's now got a better Detroit team, and it looks like Ottawa's getting better. You'll notice Ottawa's not on the board yet. So there you go. Number 21. Going 2-1-1 this week. They move up 4 spots from last week. I thought they had a good week, and that's Philly. Philly is so up and down, and it's interesting. And I know people are going to noticed this, that their record seemed to get better. Carter Hart wasn't around. I don't think that's necessarily related, but Lyon looked pretty good. Philly's got some questions they need to answer in the offseason. So yeah, for Philadelphia, their season is finished and all that, but I don't think the intrigue is anywhere near done. So yeah, they're 21st on the board. 20th, these guys went 1-2 this week. They're 23, 25, and 6 overall, and they stay in the same spot they did last week, and that's Chicago. I didn't see anything from Chicago to tell me to move them up, and I didn't see anything from Chicago to tell me to move them down. What I saw told me, yeah, they're pretty much in the right spot. So 20th overall for Chicago, and we'll see how the offseason goes for them too. So far, we haven't run into any teams that made the playoffs. So that's kind of how this is supposed to work. It should be the hottest teams in the playoffs, but you would hope that the hotter teams are going to be in your playoff teams as well. And with the tournament style setup this year, there's less of a chance of a team that's not in a playoff spot being in that top 16 row than there would be during any other season. Because, again, you're just playing within your division. There are a couple, though, in this top row that are not currently in the playoffs. Number 19. They went 1-3 this week, and they dropped 4 spots. It's a rough week for Montreal. I don't know what to think of Montreal. They're going to make the playoffs, clearly, but they're not one of the hotter teams in Canada. So I don't know what to expect from them in the playoffs. Judging by the result tonight against Toronto, they could go home early. This could be a 5-game series for Toronto. They need Gallagher back badly. Maybe Gallagher puts them over the top. We'll see. Gallagher makes a huge difference on the ice and seems to really bring that team's spirits up. So we'll see if that going into the playoffs makes a big difference for them. But right now, they've definitely been cold. Number 18, dropping 2 spots from last week. They went 1-3 this week. They're 27, 23, and 6 overall. But again, 1-3 this week, and that's the Rangers. Rangers were in the news for all the wrong reasons, of course, and here we are. I have them 5th in the division. I have them 18th overall. Was it a great season? No. Are they currently points-wise top 16 in the league? Yes. Would they have made the playoffs in another division? That is entirely possible. Do I think that it's an overreaction to throw the baby out with the bathwater? Yes. And I kind of think that's what the Rangers have done, but we'll see. We'll see what they do in the offseason, how things turn out, and whether or not we're looking at some chaos for the Rangers. Maybe they just go out in the offseason and they look to add a bunch of players that try to get to the salary cap, and maybe they're selling other guys off. I don't know what to expect. I really don't. I think this is going to be a crazy offseason, or just in general anyways. Number 17, these guys move up 1 spot from last week. However, it's a rough week for them overall, as they end up missing the playoffs. They went 1-1-1 this week, 22, 18, and 14, and that's Dallas. So Dallas ends up 5th in the Central, 17th overall, just below the line for that top row. This is why I always refer to it as rows, because up until the power rankings board I was using up until last week, I had never used it with columns. It had always been rows. So there you go. Dallas, number 17, and there you go. The only team that's in a playoff spot that's in the bottom row is Montreal. That's it. Everybody else in the top row is a playoff team. Starting with number 16, these guys go 1-2 this week. They technically move up 1 spot, but I'm not all that comfortable with it, to be honest, and that's Winnipeg. I don't know what to expect with the Jets. I really, really don't. Much like Montreal, to me it looks like the Jets could be going home early. We could just end up being in a situation where it's Edmonton and Toronto, and one team sweeps their series and the other team gets it in 5, or maybe they both sweep. Like, that's how it looks right now. And if Montreal somehow passes Winnipeg and gets third, I don't think that changes the narrative either. I don't think Montreal or Winnipeg right now look like teams that can win a round. It could change in the playoffs, but right now they just don't look like they can. Number 15. These guys went 3-0 this week, and man, they just get more and more impressive as the season goes along. They're 22, 27, and 5 overall. They're not making the playoffs, but they move up 8 spots. Because I legit looked at this board this week and went, okay, this team's playing really well. And I decided they are going ahead of some of these teams that I feel they've been playing better than, and that's Ottawa. Ottawa right now, for my money, if we had an 82-game schedule with the current divisions, with the way Ottawa's playing right now, they make the playoffs. I don't see how Ottawa doesn't make the playoffs. Stützle had a hat trick tonight. Brady Tkachuk has come into his own this year. Batherson's been good. Connor Brown's been fantastic goal-wise. Brandstrom, I think, has improved on the blue line. I know Shabbat's been out hurt, but Shabbat's been very good when he's been in. Zub's been a good addition on that blue line. Gustafsson looks good in net. Forsberg was a smart pickup. Murray did get better after a really bad start. So, yeah, Ottawa legit right now to me is in the top row. And so we'll see going into next year what happens. But the expectations for Ottawa next season are going to be pretty high. And that does change things when you are all of a sudden a team that has pressure on you. Number 14. They went 1-2-1 this week. They dropped one spot. They are now 32, 17-6, and that's the Islanders. Now, I know there will still be people who say I have the Islanders too low. There will be people also who say I have the Islanders too high, which means it's probably right about where they should be. But again, I have them 14th. They have not been that good lately. I know they beat New Jersey tonight, but coming into that, they had lost the other 3 games they played this week. So we'll see how things go. We'll see if they can turn it around. And yeah, so for the Islanders, they right now look like a team that if they're against Pittsburgh, I'm going to end up taking Pittsburgh, and I'm probably going to end up with egg on my face in that too. So can't wait to get into those series this week. Number 13. These guys dropped one spot as well. They were 1-1-2 this week, so they only won 1 out of 4. They're 24-20-9 now, and that's St. Louis. The Blues, again, they qualify for the playoffs tonight against Vegas. Were they really playing for anything? No. But I can't really give them a pass on that. At least I don't think I can. Not with the power rankings board as it is. So if a team is playing better than them right now, I feel like that's the team that should be ahead of them on that spot on the board. So they're 13th. Are they dangerous? They are dangerous in the playoffs. They won the Cup 2 years ago. They are dangerous in the playoffs. They absolutely can get hot. Doesn't mean they will. This playoffs will be likely some of the most hotly contested. There'll probably be a lot of fighting as well. It'll be at a level of like not quite 80s, but probably early 90s level. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Number 12. Number 12 on this board right now, and I think this is the highest they've been all year. They move up 2 spots. They were 2-1 this week. 30-23-2 is their overall record, and that's Nashville. Nashville has been so impressive. And that win tonight over Carolina was one of the most impressive wins they've had all year. Nashville is looking like a team that has momentum, and they've been excellent. They were 11-16, I think was the record at one point. So since then, 19-7. That's not including the 2 overtime losses. I don't think there's been an overtime loss in this run. So yeah, I'm glad Nashville made it. I think Nashville's the better of the 2 teams between they and Dallas. And I always prefer it when the better of 2 teams makes the playoffs. And it doesn't always work out that way. But in this case, I think it does. I think that Nashville's the better team and can probably give Carolina a little more of a push. I don't think they can beat Carolina. They can give them a push, and I think they showed that tonight. So we'll see how things turn out, but impressive result from them tonight. And this is, again, I believe the highest they've been on the board all year. Which is interesting because this is the lowest this team's been on the board all year. They're 2-2 this week. They're 36-16-3, and I have some concerns about Tampa. And I'm not sure that if the playoffs turn out the way that they look like they could, that Tampa necessarily gets out of the first round. That game against St. Louis, they kind of got ragdolled. I know Stamkos is coming back. I know Kucherov's coming back. I know that'll make a difference. I can't rank this board based on guys that aren't playing and things that haven't happened. So, yeah, Tampa drops to 11. I'm pretty sure that's the lowest they've been all season. And can they get it back? With Kucherov and Stamkos in the playoffs, they absolutely can. And they should. But will they is the question. Because winning a Stanley Cup one year, it's not unusual for a cup winner to be out in the first round the year after. So we'll see what happens with Tampa. And I'm not going to stand here and say Florida is dead. Not going to happen. Like I did a couple years ago with Columbus, and then Columbus swept them. But I think Tampa, there's got to be some concern. They are definitely the third best team in that division in terms of their play right now. And you might be able to argue them as being behind Nashville overall over the last month and a half. So we'll see if they can turn it around. Number 10. Moving up one spot from last week. They went 3-1 this week. They're 33-18-2, and that's the Oilers. So the Oilers finished the season in the top 10. And number 2 in the North, which is basically, they've been entrenched second in the North for quite a while. And I know there were some Winnipeg fans that were mad at me about Oilers being consistently ahead of Winnipeg. I haven't heard anything from them lately. I think I know why, but because I don't, Winnipeg hasn't been playing well, and Edmonton's been better. Now Edmonton, they're getting their points against Vancouver, but they're getting their points, and so McDavid, 100 points in 53 games is notable. So yeah, I've got the McDavid jersey on and everything. I'm all ready to go. And I don't think the Oilers lose in the first round. And I think in the second round they play Toronto, and that series could be absolutely fan-flipping-tastic. Cannot wait for that series. That series could be just jaw-dropping because you have Matthews on one side, you have McDavid on the other, and you have two teams that can score a whole bunch of goals over a short period of time. That could be a lot of fun. Number 9. Dropping 3 spots from last week. They went 1-1 this week. They're 35-15-5, and that's the Capitals. So the Capitals did drop, and I said last week, if the Capitals have another week, I'll drop them. And their week was kind of So were they better than Philly? I guess, kind of. They lost, they won. I don't know. I don't know about Washington going into the playoffs. They've got a lot of injuries. Yes, most of them are nicked up and bruised up, and they're just, they're just keeping him out just because they want him to rest up. Right. But they aren't playing great hockey going into the playoffs, and right now they don't seem to be playing as well as Boston or Pittsburgh, and they're going to have to meet one or the other. So, unless the Islanders get that third spot and they get second. But, yeah, that would be an interesting series if it was Washington against the Islanders, but I don't know. I don't know that I could see Washington beating anybody right now. And I think it may end up coming down to the goaltending. Can Vanacek or Samsonov get them through a round? And if they can't, do they have to revisit things in the offseason? And somewhere, somebody's probably shaking their head and saying, and this is why they signed Lundqvist in the offseason, which would be accurate. Lundqvist was supposed to mentor these goalies, and it just, him not being able to be there for obvious reasons, I think has hurt the overall season of the Caps, but we'll see how things turn out at the end of this. Number 8. They went 2-1-1 this week. It was a good week, not necessarily a great week. I didn't bump them up. I didn't move them down. They're 32-15-7 overall, and that's Boston. So again, Boston doesn't move up. They don't move down. I have them now second in the East, so they do pass Washington because Washington drops down, and I'm happy with that. I'm happy with having Boston in 8th. They're still having times where they're struggling with their scoring, and I know the second line's got a lot better, but there's still some concern I have there. They do seem to be playing better than both the Islanders and the Caps going into the playoffs. That's good news. They should be playing one or the other in the first round. Also good news. And yeah, they may very well get through a first round, and if they do, who knows? Maybe they can go on another run, but we'll see. Number 7. It's number 7 on here. This team went 3-0-1 this week, 35-14-5, and some cardiac kids going on here. Minnesota. So Minnesota moves up to 7th. Like I said, cardiac kids. I would have had them higher, but when you've got nail biters against Anaheim, it's tough to move you up higher than 7th. But I think Minnesota's playing really well. And Kaprizov, it's just it's mind blowing if you don't watch Kaprizov every game. Honestly, it's hard for me to explain how good he is on a regular basis. How every time he's on the ice, even if you haven't seen 97, you just know, which is odd because this 97, when he's on the ice, as well. when Kaprizov's on the ice, the game changes. The momentum changes. The mood of the Wild seems to change. Everything changes. And teams are going to have to gravitate to him, which means Zuccarello's going to be wide open, which is bad news as well because Zuccarello's pretty good. So I'm kind of thinking Minnesota might be good for an upset over Colorado in the first round. And yet, I would take Colorado in that first round over Minnesota, but that could be a really close overall series between the two. And an old rivalry reborn this year, right? And I say reborn only because Minnesota hasn't been on that level for a while. They've been kind of one and done, and it doesn't feel like this team is as one and done as that one, as they were before. Number 6. These guys went 2-0 this week. I move them up. Nope, I actually... Yeah, no, I did. I moved them up one spot, right? Let me just double check. Yes, I did. I did move them up one spot. I just want to double check because I went back and forth on these two spots, so I want to make sure I got this accurate. And that's Florida. So Florida moves up one spot. They end up finishing the season in 6th. They finished the season 2nd in the Central. Excellent season for Florida. This is a team that can come from behind in the third period. They can blow your doors off with a 5-1 win like they did with Tampa today. If they can beat Tampa again on Monday, they get home ice advantage. I'll probably be wearing a Florida jersey for that preview. Series previews, I always wear the jersey of the team I think is going to win that series. And right now, Florida just looks like they've got it. And that it looks like Florida and Carolina should be on a collision course for round 2. And I'm here for it. That could be an absolutely amazing second round. So, Florida, they end up 6th. Number 5. These guys dropped 2 spots from where they were last week. They did go 3-1, but it's just, to me, there are a couple other teams that I thought had better results and just are playing better hockey right now, and that's Colorado. Colorado right now, you're always dealing with injury issues, and I think they'll straighten it out. I still think that Colorado has an excellent chance at the Stanley Cup. So I have them 5th on the board, but I still think they have an excellent chance to win it all because they should get everything together. Tonight, they didn't have Nathan McKinnon in their lineup, right? So right now I have them 5th, but it's kind of with almost an asterisk because I know things should get better, much like Tampa. Tampa I have 11th, but they should get better. Should doesn't always mean they will, but should. Number 4. These guys went 3-1 this week. Excellent hockey this week. They move up one spot, and that's Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has just played some really, really strong hockey. I have them 1st in the East Division. They should be a beast in the playoffs. That being said, the first thing they have to do is start winning games in the playoffs because I believe it's 9 of their last 10 in playoff situations they've lost. So they need to shed that as quickly as possible. Get up 2-0 in whatever series they're in and go from there. First place in the division helps. They've been fantastic on home ice. Their home record has been intimidating. So that helps. That absolutely does help and should get them through at least the first round. And then who knows? Any team with Sidney Crosby on it, I don't underestimate it. I just don't. Sometimes I overestimate it. I usually do. But they did win the cup a few times with Crosby, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did it again. Number 3. These guys went 2-0-1 this week. They're 35-13-6 overall. They move up one spot from last week, and that's Toronto. So one of the greatest debates right now is Toronto, right? So Toronto, I looked and I saw that I think Sportsnet and TSN both have them top 2 on their power rankings. I have number 3. They're the best team in the North, and I again, I understand all the doubters and all the naysayers. I get it. I can only grade based on the games that take place right now. So next season, we won't see power rankings like this. We will not see power rankings where every division necessarily has a team in the top 5. We may see where a division just has teams that are lower down because we can tell from them playing other divisions whether or not they're playing well. And in Toronto's case, we don't know. We'd love to, but we really don't. So based on what I've seen from them this year, I have them at number 3. They've won a lot of games. They've played very well. They beat Montreal tonight. They came back from 2-0 down, and their goaltending has been fine. And for all they don't have defense, they don't have goaltending. Their goaltending and defense numbers are pretty good. So I can only go by what's happened, right? So we'll see what happens in the playoffs. That's where everybody's going to grade Toronto for real. And, I wish them the best of luck. And I mean that. I legit wish Toronto the best of luck. I would love nothing more than to see them, go all the way to a Stanley Cup final and at least silence some of the doubts. And then, who knows what happens from there. But it would be nice to see them go on a run because it's been since 1967, right? Number 2, and I went back and forth on who to put at number 1. But here's the way I figured it. One of the 2 teams went 3-1 this week. The other one went 2-1-1. Last week, the team that was first place, well, they went 3-1, and the team that was second went 2-1-1 this week. So, at a record of 36-11-8, Carolina is number 2. And I had them at number 1 at one point this week. But, again, they lost the game against Nashville, and Vegas made it look pretty easy against St. Louis. And again, it may be a matter of maybe St. Louis didn't have the number 1 game, but the thing is they played really well in the third period, and Fleury played well. And so for me with Carolina, I do have them at number 2. I think they're going to be excellent in the playoffs. This is a team that absolutely could end up finishing as one of the top teams that we've seen over a shortened schedule. Like I'm talking about, like up with Chicago's 2012-2013 record. Carolina and Vegas have both put up really extremely good numbers. So Carolina, I am confident that they'll at least win a round. I am confident that they should win at least 2 rounds. And then, again, once we get into the Final Four, who knows? It's going to be just a crapshoot in that Final Four because none of these teams have played one another because they don't play outside the division. But Carolina's been so impressive and so good that a 500 week, I didn't bump them down. I said, no, I'm going to leave them as they are. And they were number 1 at one point this week. So, number 1, they went 3-1 this week. They're 39-13-2 overall. And that is the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas, it's the thing with Vegas, again, is they do make it look easy. And we can have the debate over the division some other time, sure. But they do make it look relatively easy. They made it look relatively easy against St. Louis. Then there was the comeback victory with Leonard in net the other night too. Like they win in different fashions, and then in the playoffs they're going to get Reeves back, and that'll bring the physical game back for them. But the interesting thing is with Reeves out and without that physical game, they're still winning games. They're still winning most of their games. So they're likely going to win the President's Trophy. We know what that entails. Bring on the jokes, but they to me have been the best team in the league over the last season. And so I have them at number 1, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs. So there you go. There's the last power rankings of the 2021 regular season, and they'll start happening weekly again in the fall. And when they happen in the fall, it should be on the brand new board that's being designed for me as we speak, which will involve pucks. It'll be pucks. It'll be 4 rows of 8 pucks, meaning 32 teams, because Seattle, that's going to be fun. Seattle's not on the board this time around because, no. There you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment. I mean, they're over here. They're at the very end over here, but I don't actually have a number with Seattle, so let's put them here over the NHL. There you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as I know everybody will. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And for people who skip to the end, you're lucky I don't mess these up anymore. I used to mix them all up at the end of the video, and then people get all mad. I don't do that anymore. I stopped that a couple years ago. It was funny when I did it, though. But anyways, there you go. Thank you guys for all your support throughout the season. It's been great. That's 16 weeks of power rankings. Nice, even number. Next Saturday, odds are I will be doing I'm going to do a video where I talk about the average power rankings. So I rank teams by their average during the season. And I'll also do a high-low and where each team was, and that'll be spread over the next couple of weeks. So looking forward to doing that. That's always fun to see where teams start and where they end and all that too. But thank you guys so much for your support along the way. The growth on this channel has been fantastic this season, and I thank each and every one of you for it. I will talk to you again soon.